Okay, before I let this video play, I want to say Barakatah Yahweh Yahushai. I want to say that this is a style of videos I want to get back to as far as the presentation goes. I want to keep it this way going forward. I want to say that the reason why I wanted to talk about the Tabernacle of Moses is simply because for a long time I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand the history, the significance of what's known as the Tabernacle of Moses, or the sanctuary of the Most High, during the time of Moses and a little after. Okay, so I know there are many of you who read the scriptures and, amongst other things, really aren't clear on what certain things or certain topics are talking about. I want to give an invitation to anyone in the comment section, or if you have my phone number or email, if you have any breakdown that you would like broken down on this platform, feel free to contact me. We will get to it. Bear with us. I'm sure, there are a lot of brothers and sisters who have tons of questions, but we will get to them. Videos like this are very important to me because not only am I, I'll share something with you personal. These videos I do a lot of them to help me remember them. Like, I do these videos as like notes, damn near. There's sometimes I'm like, dang, what was that? What did that mean in Revelation 3 in this verse 3 and 15? I'll go back, and Captain Gadahar said it means this, so it helps me. But at the same time, I know it's my job to not only learn but to teach, and I take great pride in, humble pride in being able to have the ability and the equipment needed to do the work of the Lord power of Israel. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. We got a good one, to say the least. I put some notes over the last couple of weeks together, and I want to play this small clip. Today we're going to be talking about the Tabernacle of Moses. We're going to be talking about the Tabernacle of Moses, the tabernacle, burnt offerings, and a little bit of insight on how it was during the time of Moses and the Levitical priesthood and how things operated. That way, when you're reading the Bible and you're reading the Old Testament, you're reading Isaiah and you're reading Malachi and you're reading all these references to, get your burnt offerings away from me, or but you polluted mine altar. Okay, what are you talking about? You're going to see exactly what he's talking about, and it's all going to make sense. So big ups to Commander General Yahanna, the generals, the captains, the officers, the troopers, the brothers, the sisters that support the Israelite School of U.P.K. And without further ado, I present to you the Tabernacle of Moses breakdown. So this video here is a remake, right? Take it with a grain of salt.
My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth.
The sanctuary that
when
the
I
Most High
suffer thy
commanded us
foot
to
to be
create
moved,
from Exodus
he that
25,
keepeth thee will not slumber.
the 25th chapter to the 40th chapter. And this is just a visual representation of it. You got the two lamb that we were commanded to offer up daily. You saw the brazen altar. That is the brazen altar, which we'll explain and give some insight on. Right? The priest, the Levitical priest. You used to put the blood on the four corners of the brazen altar. That little instrument you see right there, that's the bronze laver. Right, the laver. Priests would wash their hands. There you go. Excuse his hands. We know he's not the tribe of
Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night.
Right now we're entering into the tabernacle.
From all evil. He shall preserve thy
The
soul.
first half, or the first
Yahweh
section,
shall preserve thy going out and thy
called
coming
the
in,
holy place.
from this time forth and even forever.
Here you see the menorah.
Amen.
You see the table of showbread. You see, I'll say it again, the menorah, seven lampstands that was commanded to be lit and never go out. You see, this is the table of showbread that King David, famously ate from, right, which was only for the priest. Right? We'll talk a little bit about that. And how it was always 12 pieces of bread and one piece representing each tribe. This is the altar of incense, which the Lord loves his incense, frankincense and myrrh. We continually burn, perpetual, everlasting, right? I imagine it was more smoke, more incense. Now, that was the holy place. Now, behind, or the curtain between the holy place and the Holy of Holies is the veil. Now, the Holy of Holies, the most holy place, contained the Ark of the Covenant. Right? You see with the two cherubims on top, overlaid in pure gold that we took from Egypt. We know the Ark of the Covenant contained both the tablets of Moses, Aaron's staff, and a pot of manna. See, and the mercy seat. And also note that only the high priests were allowed in this section of the tabernacle. Now, of course, take it with a grain of salt that this is just a remake. This isn't the real thing, but it's close. It's close to it. So this is what we were commanded to build coming out of Egypt. So just to give you a little rundown on the history, the Israelites were in slavery, and the Most High heard our cries, and He delivered us. He delivered us from our oppressors, and of course, everyone knows about the 10 plagues, right? And how famous the Most High is for his miraculous wonders and works on behalf of the children of Israel. And I want to thank the Most High again. I want to thank the Most High for doing those things, and I pray He does them again. It's like it. So the Most High was with us. When we left Egypt, there was a lot of doubt in the nation. There's a lot of doubt. We was wandering in the wilderness for 40 days. We were wandering around. We were nomads pretty much. We didn't have a stable place in the very beginning. We weren't in the promised land. It took some time to get into the promised land. But before we got there, there's a lot of doubt in the nation. But the Most High commanded Moses to create a sanctuary. So now I want to go into my presentation, and I want to show you in the scriptures how important this was in the time, and a couple things that you may not be aware of in the New Testament. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about, as you see on the screen, we'll talk about the Ark of the Covenant. We'll talk about the tabernacle. We'll talk about the holy place, the Holy of Holies. In the first couple minutes of the video, I just gave a basic summarization of everything. I want to go into detail throughout this video. All right. That way, when you read about these events, you can see it visually. You can hear it. You can see it. You can remember, the courtyard, and it's all going to make sense. It's all going to make sense. And I'm glad that I am in position to be able to help others understand what I at one point had no idea about. Right. But these things, like with all things in the scriptures, take time to study and learn. So we'll be talking about the tabernacle. This is another visual representation, artistic depiction of the sanctuary that we were commanded to build, and how it was operated. You see all the tents outside of the courtyard or the curtains, right? And another thing I want to note is there was only one entrance in to get into the sanctuary. See, and we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. All right. Yep. See, one entrance gate. You had the white curtain fence. I'm gonna show you a couple images, and we're gonna get into the scriptures about it. But seeing this is so important to understanding what you're reading. You see, like I mentioned, the bronze altar, the bronze laver, the holy place. Right. You had the different lawful animal skins that played as a covering over the tabernacle or the tent. This is something that we used to be able to pack up and move around. This is very important that I'm mentioning this. The tabernacle was something that we were able to pack up the curtains, right? We had the blueprint, right? We had the layout and the very tedious details to the construction of this. We had it written down. It was given to us. And we would pack it whenever we would move. We would pack this up, right? We would pack up the tabernacle, so to speak, and where we would decide to dwell, we would set this back up. You see, that's why. Let me see here if I have an image of that. If you look, let me see if I can point here. If you look at the in the center, I can't really zoom into that. I'll show you shortly that a lot of these instruments had rings on the side of them, 4 rings on these instruments, and staffs that you can put through them, so that when we would leave and go different places and travel, because the Israelites were very nomadic at this time, we would just carry them. We had select men who were given the assignment to carry the Ark of the Covenant, to carry the brass altar, to carry the tabernacle. See. All right. So let's get into the scriptures, right? Exodus 25:8. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I show thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall ye make it. You see that? So, and let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I show thee. So Moses was going to get the breakdown on what to build and how to build it. And what you see here is not only the tabernacle, but the pattern of all the instruments thereof. Even so shall ye make it. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the instruments. You had the instruments that the Most High is referring to are things that he gave specific detail. You know, like for example, certain things were like the cherubims or the angels on top of the Ark of the Covenant. One of the details in the construction of that was, the top that was sculpted in the angels had to be from one piece of gold, pure gold. You couldn't get combined 2 pieces of gold, and no, there's one piece of gold. That was the order. See, the brazen altar, little typo, the brazen laver, the menorah, the Ark of the Covenant, the table of showbread, the altar of incense, the veil, etc. These are the instruments that were within the sanctuary. Okay. All right. I don't want to go there yet. All right. So let's look at Exodus 27:1. Let's look at the brass altar, one of the instruments, right? Exodus 27:1. And thou shalt make an altar of shittim wood, 5 cubits long, 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. And thou shalt make the horns of it upon the 4 corners thereof. His horns shall be of the same, and thou shalt overlay it with brass. And thou shalt make his pans to receive his ashes, and his shovels, and his basins, and his flesh hooks, and his fire pans. All the vessels thereof thou shalt make of brass. And thou shalt make for it a grate of network of brass, and upon the net shalt thou make 4 brazen rings in the corners thereof. And thou shalt put it under the compass of the altar beneath, that the net may be even in the midst of the altar. And thou shalt make staves for the altar, staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with brass. And the staves shall be put into the rings, and the staves shall be put upon the 2 sides of the altar to bear it. This is so we can take it with us. Hollow with boards thou shalt make it, as it was showed thee in the mount, so shall they make it. This is what Moses received, and he gave it to us. Now, take a look at, backtrack here a little bit. Take a look at it again. I'll play the clip. I'll just read it. You see that there? Let me see here. That is the brazen altar, right? And if I'm not mistaken, had a the fire within. Think of a. I hate to compare it to this. Well, I don't hate to compare it to it, but think of a barbecue pit. Think of a big square barbecue pit that stayed on fire. It stayed on fire because we had to offer offerings, right? I believe there are 5 different types of offerings. We'll get into that, but there were offerings that we offered. You see the 2 lamb daily. That was in the scriptures, right? So that's the brazen altar. Let me see here. Right. All right. Okay, yeah, I do have it in here. I thought I took it out. No sweat. So these are the different offerings that we would commanded to do. You have the free will offerings, and then you have the required offerings. You have the priest at this time. Only the tribe of Levi were commanded to handle these things. Think of the tabernacle as a holy place. That's exactly what it was. The priests were played as the government. You see? And that'll make a lot more sense when we discuss Solomon's temple. Not in this video, but King Solomon's temple was, okay, the tabernacle and the layout of the outer courtyard and the holy place and the Holy of Holies, or the most holy place, basically is a prelude to Solomon's temple. Solomon's temple, of course, we were established in a land. We all know the story, or the account rather, where King David wanted to build the temple of the Most High, but he was not allowed to because he had too much blood on his hands. So he promised that his son, who was King Solomon, who he had gotten through Bathsheba, we all know that famous account, and Solomon built the temple, and it's the same layout. Had the veil, the most holy place, the holy place, the menorah, the table of showbread, etc. See, but that's later on in our history. But a lot of us didn't know that. It's important that we know these things. All right, let's talk a little bit about the bronze laver. The bronze laver, in my notes I put here, the bronze laver was God's wonderful provision for that inner cleansing, and it stood between the bronze altar and the entrance into the holy place. At the laver, the priest was to wash his hands and his feet before he could enter into the holy place to serve the Most High. Exodus 30 and 17. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Thou shalt also make a laver of brass, and his foot also of brass, to wash withal. And thou shalt put it between the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar, and thou shalt put water therein. For Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet thereat. When they go into the tabernacle of the congregation, they shall wash with water, that they die not. If you went in there without washing your hands, brother, right? Or when they come near to the altar to minister, to burn offering made by fire unto the Lord, so shall they wash their hands and their feet, that they die not. And it shall be a statute forever to them, even to him and to his seed throughout their generations. So that was the bronze laver. You see that there? It was a bronze wash pot, so to speak. Wash pot. I want to put a little bit more respect on it. That was bronze laver, but I'm trying to give it to you in layman's terms. All right. Where we at here? All right, the veil. We talked a little bit about the veil. I'm just going into the different instruments of the sanctuary, the tabernacle. The veil. Exodus 26 and 33. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches, that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony, and the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy. Everything I'm saying to you is biblical. Everything I've shown you is biblical. And the reason why I wanted to make this video is to show you. So when you read it, you can visualize it. You see? Where we at here? Oh. All right. Now the veil separated the holy place from the Holy of Holies. Right? Now, let's explain again and a little bit more into detail how this worked. The outer courtyard, the outer courtyard is everything outside the tabernacle, right? I think I got another illustration here that shows that. Yeah. You see this right here. You see the outer courtyard, the curtains. There's only one entrance you see to your right. That was the only entrance here. The first thing you see when you walk in is the altar of burnt offerings. You see? Then, after that, you see the bronze laver. Then you can enter into the tabernacle. And within the tabernacle, in the holy place, is the table of showbread that was commanded to always have bread on it. Then you had the menorah that was always lit. That was the only illumination within the tabernacle. Imagine the atmosphere within the tabernacle. Good night. And then you had the altar of incense. Incense just, right? Good night. It gives me chills thinking about how it could look or how it felt being in there. Then after the altar of incense, there was this big curtain, right? That separated the holy place from the next part of the tabernacle, which is the Holy of Holies, or the most holy place, which contained the Ark of the Covenant, which the Ark of the Covenant contained the tablets of Moses, Aaron's staff that budded, and a pot of manna. You see? Let me see here. Here it is again. Take a look at it. Exodus 26 and 30 through 33. Take the time to write that down, read it, take a look at this again, pause the video, refer back to this video, so you can remember how this worked. And that way, when you read, how we did the Day of Atonement, because that's another thing I want to mention. In Hebrews, Paul, and in the Old Testament, of course, but Paul spoke about this a lot in Hebrews from like 8 to 10, the 10th chapter, 8, 9, 10, those chapters. He also noted that only the high priest once a year was able to enter into the most holy place. You couldn't just be any old Israelite and walk into, let alone the most holy place, but the holy place. There was a king by the name of King Uzziah. King Uzziah, in his pride, went into the tabernacle and tried to perform the duties of a priest, and he was struck with leprosy. Read it. You know, Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, in the days of King Uzziah, that king was struck with leprosy. You see, this is a serious thing. This is a very serious profession that we hold on to. See, let's keep going. How can I forget? I just want to throw this in here to be kind of funny. There was a great series of movies, Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of my all-time favorite movies. I might watch it to fall asleep to it again. It is 3 a.m. where I'm at now. This movie is outstanding. All of them are. All of them have to do with archaeology and anthropology and antiquity, things I just love. This movie in particular, before I came to the truth, I had no idea that it was talking about the Raiders of the Lost Ark. What was the Lost Ark? I didn't know. The Lost Ark of the Covenant, the Most High. Duh, right? I didn't know that. And you read, it's a lot of Hollywood in there, but it's a good movie. The reason why I put this on there is of course I was being a little funny, but in all seriousness, our oppressors want that. They want the ark. They want the ark of the Most High. There's different accounts where David danced before the ark, or when the Hamites had possession of the Ark of the Covenant, and they had scabs all over their bodies, and their statues of their false gods fell over because they had our Ark of the Covenant within their possession. Or there's other accounts where Elijah and not Elijah, excuse me, Joshua and the priest who bore the Ark of the Covenant on their shoulders, with Israelites rallying behind them, circling the city of Jericho. Oh my goodness. And sounding a trumpet, and then the walls of Jericho came down. Or being able to walk over the Jordan River. Not only did we walk over the Red Sea, but with the Ark of the Covenant in hand, we walked over the Jordan as well. You see? Good night. Let's read a little bit about the Ark of the Covenant. 2 Chronicles 35:3. And said unto the Levites that taught all Israel, which were holy unto the Lord, put the holy ark in the house which Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, did build. It shall not be a burden upon your shoulders. Serve now the Lord your power and his people Israel. This is during the time when Solomon constructed the temple. No longer will we have to pack up and move. We were established in the land, and we didn't have to bear it on our shoulders anymore. See? What else I got here for us? Exodus 37:1-9. That goes into the detailed instruction on how to, um, handle the Ark of the Covenant and how to build it, and the wood that the box was made out of, and it was overlaid with pure gold, and the top being pure gold. You see? Let me see here. I think we got a little bit more. Oh, there's another great image I found online that I felt really embodied the spirit of the Bible, and can really show us give you an idea how glorious it was in here. You see, just take a look at that, take that in. Amazing. Amazing, to say the least. Like I said, imagine the atmosphere. I know how it feels to be in the school and incense burning, but in the tabernacle, man, it had to be, there was no lights you flick on and off. It was a big, tall menorah that was lit all way. You see, and the atmosphere, man, the atmosphere was that of the Lord being there. The spirit of the place was, God is here. You understand? That was the spirit of the place. That was the spirit of the place. Look at that, man. A lot of times you see that in the scriptures, how, a cloud came down and was above. Basically, this place glowed. This place glowed whenever we were to not move. Whenever it stopped glowing, whenever this place stopped glowing, we would pack up the tabernacle and a chariot would guide us. A pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day would guide us on where to go. This is before street lights and red lights and GPS and Google Maps and what's the other one? Not Waze. Not Yelp. There's another one that there was no maps. You see? Well, not to say there were no maps, but you get where I'm going. The Most High was guiding us, and he ultimately guided us to the promised land, the land that flowed with milk and honey, which we, the Jews and Israelites, messed up. Of course, because that's what we did as a people, just mess up everything. Now, I want to talk about a little bit about the whereabouts of the Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle, because where is it? In the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 2, verse 1, it reads, in our records, it is also found in the records that Jeremiah the prophet commanded them that were carried away to take of the fire as it had been signified, and how that the prophet had been having given them the law, charged them not to forget the commandments of the Most High, that they should not err in their minds when they see images of silver and of gold with ornaments, and with other such speeches. So this is Jeremiah escaped the siege of Jerusalem by the Babylonians. There were multiple sieges of Jerusalem. To give you a little insight, Nebuchadnezzar ransacked Israel once. But the first time, it wasn't as brutal as the second time. He placed King Zedekiah, and instead of, it's not coming to me at the moment, but there was another king. Zedekiah was placed in his stead, but Zedekiah was basically placed there as to play tributary to Nebuchadnezzar, and to pay tithes of all, so to speak, to Nebuchadnezzar. But the time came that King Zedekiah stopped paying homage to Nebuchadnezzar. So Nebuchadnezzar decided to siege Jerusalem, and he was successful. He starved this out, and famously Zedekiah tried to escape. Nebuchadnezzar met him out with his Babylonian soldiers, caught his 2 sons, unalived his 2 sons in front of him, gouged his eyes out after that, so that the last thing he ever saw was his sons being killed by his oppressor, then was carried away into slavery in Babylon. Jeremiah escaped that. Jeremiah was forewarned by the Lord to flee Jerusalem, right? Because Israel was being so wicked during this time. Now, if you look at this is during that time, 2 Maccabees 1 and 4. It was also contained in the same writing that the prophet, being warned of God commanded the tabernacle and the ark to go with him, and he went forth into the mountain where Moses climbed up and saw the heritage of God. And when Jeremiah came, imagine Jeremiah looking back during, everything's on fire, screaming, and he's watching, Jerusalem, the place he called home, be ransacked by Babylonians. He was able to see it from that mountaintop. It says, and when Jeremiah came thither, he found an hollow cave wherein he laid the tabernacle and the ark, and the altar of incense, and so stopped the door. Right. So there's a location where Jeremiah hid the Ark of the Covenant. According to historians, they say they found it, but they cannot get to it. They cannot reach it. Whether that's true or not, it's not scripture. What is scripture is that Jeremiah had it, and he hid it, right? Verse 6, and some of those that followed him came to mark the way, but they could not find it. Which when Jeremiah perceived, he blamed them, saying, as far as that place, it shall be unknown until the time that God gather his people again together and receive them unto mercy. You see? So, the scientists, and there's so many documentaries on where is the Ark of the Covenant. Is it in Canada? Is it here? Is it there? Jeremiah was, according to the scriptures, was the last person to have it. Men followed him to try to know the way of where the Ark of the Covenant is, and the Ark of the Covenant was hid by Jeremiah, and not even those men can find it. And they followed his footsteps, the tracks of his sandals. You see, and not even they can find it. And Jeremiah prophesied that the place of its whereabouts, the tabernacle, the altar. The tabernacle, the altar, and the altar of incense, and the what is that? Ark of the Covenant. It shall be unknown until the Most High gather his people again together, and we're in that time. So you do the math. Do I have anything else here? No, that's it. That's it about. Yeah. So I just want to give a little bit of insight on the tabernacle and how it worked a little bit. This video could have been hours long, but you get the point. If you have any questions about the tabernacle and how things operated, we could do a breakdown on King Solomon's temple. But it really operated the same way. It really did. Note that when Christ died on that cross, the veil rent too, as Christ prophesied. Excuse me. So, think of it as during that time when it was Solomon's temple, and mind you that the temple was reconstructed a few times. Remember, during the Maccabean revolt, the Greeks destroyed the temple, and remember during the time of the Babylonians in the siege of Jerusalem, they ransacked Jerusalem and destroyed our most holy things. And the brothers in Ezra, Nehemiah, Habakkuk, Joshua the high priest during that time, among Zerubbabel rebuilt the temple under the orders of course, the Most High, but Darius and King of Persia at the time financed financially and allowed us to rebuild the temple. There's a lot of history regarding the temple, the tabernacle, that was major in our history. And what I would say to anyone regarding this topic, what can these things mean to us? A lot of times I try to look at like, what can this mean for me today? And I'll be honest with you. As far as this topic goes, I would say knowing about it. What does it mean? Really getting in them scriptures and reading them and caring about our history. That's what I say. That's what I would say concerning how we were nomads and had nowhere to go. It's like we don't have a home now. People talk about, oh, Feast of Tabernacles, you're supposed to get in a tent. Nigga, I've been in a tent my entire life. We're not home, you see? But that's another video for another time. I want to thank you for your time and watching this breakdown. I hope that it gave at least a smidget of insight on what the tabernacle was and what it represented. Big ups to Commanding General Yahanna, General Muhammad, the generals, the captains. Big ups to my captain, Captain Gadar. And until next time, we'll see you for the next video. Shalom.